What is the greatest show of all time?
Breaking Bad.
You idiot.
Okay, fine, apart from Breaking Bad.
Cops.
Paradise PD.
Cuties.
Vampire Diaries. You idiot.
Okay, one more guess.
Better Call Saul.
Better call that Saul bloke. You idiot.
Ah, perfect. And now that the show is over, I can use my skeevy eyes to scour the show in search of the undebatable, most heartbreaking scene. And oh boy, I think I might have found it. A scene about consequences and perspectives, involving a character who you might not expect. But first, we need a little bit of context. Spoilers! Now, over the show's run, we got some incredible tension and action, as well as some heartbreaking emotional scenes involving the drug side of the show. The kind of stuff that made Breaking Bad so great. But if you look back at earlier seasons, there really wasn't a lot of cartel stuff going on. And it made sense because this isn't Breaking Bad, and it didn't try to be. Some of my favourite episodes of Better Call Saul are the courtroom episodes, where not a single shot is fired. Unless you count Chuck's absolute roast of Jimmy in Chicanery.
He defecated through a sunroof, and I saved him.
Over the last few seasons of the show, as the gap between Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad grew smaller, that cartel Breaking Bad action we love so much started seeping its way in more and more. And at first, I have to admit, I was a little skeptical, but I think in some cases, these scenes and storylines actually top the original show, as now, the creators, writers, directors, they'd all been doing this for years, and really had time to experiment and flesh out their visual style. And to me, the most fascinating part of the cartel side of the show was always the character of Nacho Varga, a conflicted character put in a terrible situation, backed into a corner, forced to betray the ruthless Salamancas to benefit the ruthless Gus Fring, with the threat of his father being killed looming over his head if he doesn't comply. So he has two options. He can either pick his current side of the gang war and not betray them, but then Gus will kill both him and his father, or he can do what he's told, continuing to betray his gang with no end in sight, likely getting killed afterwards anyway. And so you sympathise with him. He's not cruel by any means, he just follows orders, and we never really see him enjoy what he does for a living. You get the feeling he was swept up into this lifestyle, but now is being used as a pawn with no way out. And most of the time, characters who betray their own do so out of greed or ambition. But Nacho seemed fine just sticking to himself, getting on with the job and going home. And so in the final season, when all of this came to a head, we got some of the most incredible action scenes throughout the entire Breaking Bad universe. Unless you count the snowball fight from Slippin' Jimmy.
Hey fellas.
As these two sides of the cartel went to war in an elaborate chess game of tricks and conspiracy. And, unfortunately, Nacho didn't make it out. Going out on his own terms, but ultimately doing what Gus wanted. He was still being puppeteered up until just a minute or so before his demise. But it's not his death I want to talk about today. It's the aftermath, the calm after the storm of all this violence in what is my personal favourite episode of the entire season. Because to me, it perfectly sums up why I loved Better Call Saul so much, not just in its moments of action, but quiet too. And this episode is fun and games. I mean, that's the episode title. The actual episode's very heartbreaking. Now, Mike is a character who, just like Nacho, is conflicted. He has morals, in a soldier kind of way. He believes that if you say you're gonna do something, then you do it.
You can be on one side of the law or the other. But if you make a deal with somebody, you keep your word.
He tries where he can to help those around him who deserve it, trying to bargain with Gus over and over for Nacho's life.
Loyalty goes both ways. Varga's done everything you asked him.
The way things stand, he's gonna get caught in the crossfire. I'm thinking we should find a way to pull him out of there.
But this is a cold industry where death has become normalised. In a line of work so full of secrets and backstabbing, Mike is as honourable as a guy can be whilst doing this sort of thing. But he had some part to play in what happened to Nacho. Yes, trying to look out for Nacho's best interests, but he knows he has little sway in the whole situation.
You have a gun to his father's head. That doesn't sit with me.
He'd become sort of a father figure to Nacho, starting off with the two at odds.
You're really willing to blow up this deal over 20 bucks?
Are you?
But by the end, Mike is the only one who Nacho trusts to look out for his father, as he knows that if Mike says he'll do something, he won't go back on his word. Nacho respects Mike for being trustworthy, and Mike respects Nacho for doing whatever it takes to protect his father. And so they build up a kind of bond and mutual understanding. So inevitably, Mike feels guilt when Nacho is killed. Not just for Nacho, but for his father, Manuel, as he himself lost his son to injustice and knows how it feels. So in the beginning of the episode Fun and Games, we see him hiding away his tools, now that all the violence is over. And whilst doing this, he sees a fake ID, which he found when cleaning Nacho's apartment, an ID for Nacho's father, which he made in case his father changed his mind and agreed to flee the country with him.
Si quieres huir, huye. Pero yo, ni madres, yo no voy a huir.
A quick glimpse into what could have been. And this ID reminds Mike of a part of the situation which he might have previously been trying to block out. This was someone's son. A good, hard-working, honest man who has no idea that his child is dead. You can see from the look on Mike's face that he's uncomfortable with this. Again, he's a man of truth and honesty. And Mike believes that if you're in the game, you're fair game.
It was them or it was us, cut and dried. They were in the game.
And so as bad as Nacho's death hits him, he understands that he walked his own path. But now, confronted with the image of his father, it's likely a reminder that when those in the cartel life are killed, innocents still suffer. I mean, Nacho's father wasn't in the game. And so we then see Mike sitting watching TV with a brewski. But he can't concentrate, looking over at a toy which him and his granddaughter played with. The daughter of the son which Mike lost due to similar circumstances. In season 1 of the show, we learn that Mike's son, just like him, was a police officer, and one day his son came to him and told him that some of the other officers were trying to get him to take a bribe, and he's unsure what to do, wanting his father's advice, and Mike tells him to take it. Everyone takes bribes there. He took bribes there when he was a cop, and so he does, but it's too late. Now they don't trust him because he hesitated, and so they kill him. Not only did Mike lose a son, but he feels like he corrupted him as well.
Broke my boy.
And aside from this encounter, it's likely his son wouldn't have even become a cop if it weren't for him. And by Mike willingly taking part in the bribes and the corruption, he's partly responsible for making it the way it is. But can you really blame him? Look at what happens when you don't. And after discovering which officers killed his boy, Mike then kills the two of them in revenge. So we know that Mike believes in an eye for an eye. But back in Fun and Games, Mike tries to forget about the ID, but it's taken over his thoughts now. He gets the box back out from under the floorboards. Staring at the card, he's already made up his mind. We cut to Nacho's father, at his shop doing a bit of sewing, as the phone rings. He picks up and it's Mike, telling him he'd like to discuss his son. He's taken back, wanting to know right away what happened. Mike tells him he's outside and wants to talk face to face. When he comes outside, we see that Mike is on the other side of the fence. And even though they might be face to face, they won't be seeing eye to eye. And this fence acts as a visual separator between the two of them and the opposing mindsets they have on what happened to Nacho and grief. Mike tells him he's sorry but Nacho won't be found, trying to give him closure and reassuring him it was over fast. It's a sweet gesture at first, but you see, Mike should have stopped here, because what he goes on to say is where the two of them fall on uncommon ground. Mike tells Nacho's father what he thinks he wants to hear.
You won't have to worry about the Salamancas. Their day is coming. There'll be justice.
Of course, this is what Mike thinks justice is, because he's all about honour and fairness, and this is the same thing he did when his own son died. Yes, he did it in retaliation, but it shows you what his idea of justice really means. But when we cut back to Nacho's father's face, you can see the anger and disgust at Mike's phrasing.
Justice?
And Mike is so set in his ways, he doesn't take time to consider that not every father who's lost a son would react this way, would want more violence. He thinks there's been a language barrier, repeating the word justice in Spanish, and Nacho's father confronts him.
What you talk about is not justice. What you talk of is revenge.
And in a way, they're both right. So you have lawful justice and unlawful justice. And Mike didn't need to kill the two officers. He could have built a case around them. But look at the line of work he's in. Does he really want the eyes of the law around him or Gus, or his previous activities? He was a police officer for a long time. He likely knows that the chances of any evidence or conviction are very, very low, and talking to the police just ends in your own death. But even aside from the consequences, it's just not in his character. He'd probably see this as hypocritical and going back on his word, as he himself is on the wrong side of the law. Mike is a cartel killer. If he has little problem murdering random gang members, why should he have a problem killing the men who took his son? He's doing what he's used to. But you see, Nacho's father lives a very different life. When Hector Salamanca attempts to use his business as a front for the cartel's operations, he refuses,
Váyase de mi taller.
even if it means losing his life, the same trait which Mike describes his son having.
He was the strongest person that I ever knew. He would never done it, not even to save himself.
He's a law-abiding, honest man, and so he believes that violence just leads to more violence in a never-ending cycle. And you can see how truthful his perspective is. Listen to how Mike's talking.
You won't have to worry about the Salamancas. Their day is coming.
A Salamanca will kill one of Fring's men, and so one of Fring's men will kill a Salamanca because it's an eye for an eye, and it will just keep going and going until none of them are left. And then a new cartel comes into the space and the cycle repeats. And this is exactly what we see happen in Breaking Bad. The scene in which Nacho dies, every single character is dead by the end of Breaking Bad. It makes you wonder, what did all of that bloodshed happen for? And as an outsider, Nacho's father understands this. He doesn't care about justice for Nacho in this gang war. This gang war is the reason his son is dead. And this shot of both of them separated sums all of this up, divided by this fence which obscures Mike, making it look as though he's in a cage, trapped in this life. But Manuel, on the other hand, is free. He may never get justice for his son, but he's accepted that Nacho laid his own bed, and he did all he could to try and sway him from going down the path he did, not wanting to contribute any more to the violence. He's attempting to break the cycle, even if it is a hopeless cause. The final bit of dialogue from Nacho's father hits the hardest.
My boy is gone. Ustedes el cartel y su justicia.
He's telling Mike the truth instead of what Mike wants to hear. Mike has the common mindset when it comes to war and violence. When an enemy takes one of yours, they're a murderer, but when you take one of theirs, it's justice. And really, Mike is almost no better than any of the other cartel members we see throughout Better Call Saul. He still kills, even if he knows they might not deserve it, because it's him or them.
Is there no other way, truly?
If he refuses Gus's orders, he can't be trusted and will be gotten rid of. The only difference between him and some of the others is his guilt. But to a grieving father who doesn't have any of this context, you're just another cog in the system. Mike still follows the orders of these men, and it's no coincidence that this is Mike's last appearance in Better Call Saul, a show about characters trying and failing to change for the better. And from the final, lingering shot, you can really tell the impact this interaction has had on Mike. When we next catch up with him in Breaking Bad, he doesn't seem to question what he does anymore. He seems numb to everything, killing a whole group of gang members with ease, seeming like it's more of an inconvenience than a case of multiple murders.
Chow, you have anything you want to tell me?
He's drowned out this guilt and accepted the fact that he can't change anything. The cartel is its own beast. So it's better to just suck it up and get on with it. Because if he doesn't, then someone else will. And he's already fully in this life now. It makes me think back to a conversation that Saul and Mike had in Season 5, after narrowly escaping the desert, which they were travelling through for days whilst being tracked by rivals trying to steal their dollar. Mike is the main reason they made it out. Doing this for so long, he's able to keep a level head. But Saul is, at this point in the series, removed from the cartel lifestyle. In his mind, this was supposed to be just a quick drive across the border, He is in way over his head, nearly losing his life and witnessing so many deaths take place around him. Understandably, he's rattled. And so, when it's all calmed down, he asks Mike,
You said this goes away, so what's the time frame on that?
and rather than telling him to suck it up, which would be the easy thing to do, he offers some advice and comfort to Saul.
One day you're gonna wake up, eat your breakfast, brush your teeth, go about your business. And sooner or later, you're gonna realize you haven't thought about it.
Mike deep down is a very emotional person with strong beliefs in an industry where this behaviour will get you killed. So throughout Better Call Saul, we see him battle that side of himself, and slowly over time, it gets smaller and smaller. So when we first see him in Breaking Bad, it's almost completely gone. All that's left is a cold, calculated cartel killer, a soldier who follows orders and doesn't look back. Mike went to Nacho's father, in some way to try and give him peace of mind, but also to get validation that this is how a father should react to losing a son, but ended up with a shock to this honour he believes himself to have, and a realisation that letting your emotions come through, even with good intentions, never ends well in this industry. Who he's become is laid out right in front of him. This scene has no cartel action, no tension going on, it's just a heartbreaking look at the effect that this lifestyle has. Not just on the dead, but those around them too, told through nuanced, layered dialogue and a simple bit of visual storytelling. And it's the kind of simplicity that's really going to make me miss Better Call Saul. So yeah, let me know down below what you think the most heartbreaking scene is, and if you'd want me to do a video like this for Breaking Bad. Because there's a whole bunch, you can do one of these for almost every single scene. If you enjoyed it, maybe drop a like, a comment, really helps me out with the algorithm. Also, thank you so much for 5,000 subscribers, that's honestly insane. You have no idea how much that blows my mind. So again, thank you. I love making these and I'm not stopping anytime soon. So yeah, if you want to see videos on any of these shows, any of this stuff, then subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you, I love you, goodbye.